So hi guys, welcome to the webinar, which is on the base of safeguarding from data breaches, right? Today we have a technical webinar because this is a webinar where we allow people to ask or go as technical as they want to go in terms of a data breach. And that is exactly why we have Shamsher Bahadur as our speaker today, right? My name is Akash Singh. I am CEO and co-founder of Saro, data privacy, cybersecurity consulting company, as well as we have Saro Academy, where we kind of teach trainings in terms of privacy. So coming on to the spotlight today. So basically, Shamsher Bahadur is here with all of you. He's an expert in data breaches. He's an expert in software development, also in data breaches. So right now, we both have been working on his company, which is Arculus Labs. And Arculus Labs is a company which works on safeguarding from data breach. So who better than himself coming on the call and telling us about what are the nuances here? What are the technicalities here? I know as privacy professionals, we all know a lot about those controls that we put in, but how do we get in depth of that control, right? Is exactly where Shamsher Bahadur is. Shamsher sir, would you like to kind of take a minute and kind of introduce yourself as well?
Thank you, Akash, and good morning, all of you. It's really a pleasure to be around with all of you. I'm a learner. I have been a learner throughout, and I intend to be a learner. Keep on learning from whatever is happening in a day-to-day life. That is but much beyond educations what we have received during universities and other things. So, essence of my statement is that we need to be a learner first. Okay, cyber security, cyber breach, data breach, these all things will follow. But unless we are in a learning mode, it's going to be a slight different. So, well, I have been into security area for last 20 years, hardcore security, wherein I started my journey of security when in India, in fact, no one was even talking about security. So it goes way back in 2005. We tried to do quite a few things. As of now, currently we are in stealth mode. Let me put a disclaimer. Arculus Lab is currently in a stealth mode, and if you try to search much on internet, you may not be getting much of this stuff because we are primarily into R&D of cybersecurity challenges. That what all challenges are coming every day, we do come across with quite a few n number of like incidents, breaches, frauds, how to stop. So that's a short introduction of myself. Thanks, Akash.
So a bit about Saro. We were a startup, right, last year. We've been doing into a lot of work into privacy, cybersecurity, and that's what we have been doing. It's ISO, GDPR, right? Privacy stuff. We have been kind of getting in and day out with that work. So the agenda of today's discussion is what is a privacy data breach? Then we move on to say, hey, what is a security data breach, and what is that difference between the two? What may cause a data breach, and what is a failure what do we call a failure when we are unable to protect ourselves, right? And the data is all available in the darknet. Data is available with ransomware folks, right? Data has been encrypted by ransomware folks. So we're going to talk about them. Then we are going to talk about what do we do to improve it, right? What are we going to do to improve it? We're going to improve in our security control framework. And then we're going to talk about what measures can be taken. And that was the question number one of the session as well, where people in the chat asked, what are the measures that we're going to take to prevent data breach? So we're going to talk about all of this today in the session. So let's start the session. So basically the question is, has your personal information ever been exposed in a data breach? If yes, mention what type of data was leaked. So no, okay. So we have one answer, never, okay. Yes, phone number and address, okay. No, okay. It's a lot of no's here. Shamsher sir, I think they don't know the truth, is it?
Indeed it is.
Yes, phone number, okay. How many people here ordered food from Domino's? And I didn't say that. Okay, so phone number, right? And I think Shamsher sir, I think what we have kind of been observing here with people who have given answer is phone number, email address, and address are the three things that are on major top of mind of everyone. I think we can see that, how people are reacting is basically phone number, email address, and address. So I think we're good with this. Now coming to the, the elephant in the room, right? So my question to Mr. Shamsher sir is, what is a data breach? Can you please help everybody understanding what is data breach according to you?
Yeah, fantastic question. So first of all, we need to understand that when we talk of data breach, so what all things comes under the data? We need to identify those things first. Whether is it your telephone number that you find it as a data, or email address, or say PIIs, your personal information identifier, or like what all things first we need to understand that which comprises of data which needs to be protected. Like as Akash said that he gave an example of a fast food company. I would put it in the other way around. How many people used Google or Gmail? My question is very straight and true. Okay. Rather, I would say how many people don't use Gmail. Okay. So the guys who are using Gmail, so let's be 100% assured that your all PIIs are in the market. So in a way, all of us have suffered a data breach. It's as simple as that. But once again, then now like we need to trade that how much data we say that, okay, fine, chalta hai, it will go. Like even if it goes outside, it hardly impacts. But try to keep one thing in mind, your PIIs or say KYC is something which can't be changed. Trust me now. Like your date of birth can't be changed, your Aadhaar number can't be changed, PAN number can't be changed. Okay, and all of these three things are linked with your mobile number. So when you say your phone number is breached, so all your like personal KYC gets breached, individual as well as the organization. I'll come on the organization part later. Okay, so that's a straight answer.
I think probably we are getting together in terms of where we want to point this out. But I still want to, I think probably for people to kind of grasp a fact that if they're using Gmail or if their phone number is breached, then, PAN card is breached and everything is breached is probably a difficult thing to accept.
Yes, but yes, right. But that's the hard reality.
That is exactly why we wanted you here. So to kind of, explain people as to the amount of breaches that are already happening. Right. And it's not about what is going to happen, right? It's about what has already happened. Putting it forward to you is, what is a security breach now for you? Like if let's say there's a breach that happens. So what is a security breach? What may be called as a privacy breach? How do we segregate these breaches, and what are the levels of breaches that you see every day, especially in India?
Let me put it in some other way, like this. Directly I may not be able to answer it, but let me set the context right first. So basically, there is a concept called psychology of security. When we explore this option, psychology of security, so in that all these things get covered. So primarily there are three components are there: fear, greed, and lust. Okay, so wherever these three psychological aspects are involved in our day-to-day life, that includes the digital journey or digital life. So this comprises it's one of the main component of the security. Okay. If you are getting a heavily discounted coupon, okay, 100% it's going to be it's a sign of data breach. Fear, your KYC is going to get expired. That's a part of the fear. Once again, like if you are going to take any steps or act against that, it's going to it's a first sign for the data breach or security breach. And then the lust part. Lust is once again you are getting to see something which is too good, okay, or say participating in KBC. So these also basically what happens, like whenever the security breach happens, the fundamental reason is that they try to exploit our human psychology, try to understand from that perspective. If we are clear from that perspective, these all things will get addressed. But the problem is that now everything, we are spending more than 7 to 8 hours minimum on the digital platform. So means and our minds are always we call it as a cognitive miser. The repetitive thing, once we start doing it, then the seriousness goes towards that. Okay. So when we talk of data privacy and security, so there are three components: people, process, and technology. Okay, and it's not a responsibility of a single component through which you can address those security breach or data breach or data privacy. Computer data, applications, network devices, unauthorized access. So what is the meaning of unauthorized access? Right. First, we need to identify. Once again, if we go back, then again it will come back to the three fundamental things, that is fear, greed, and lust. So if we can combat these three traits, then probably security breach can be minimized. I won't say that it can be removed, but yes, and all the stakeholders have got a equal responsibility. Let's not think that my IT person or security person would be able to do all the things, and I would be doing whatever I want to. It doesn't work in that way. Security is responsibility of each and every stakeholders.
Sir, I have a question for you. Actually, Samiruddin put it in the chat, right? So he had a question where he asked, what are the ways, how do we identify a breach? Right? That is his question, is how, as an organization, how do we identify a breach?
It's a very tricky question. Well, I must say that means now like it's a very two or three word statement. It's a tricky question. How to identify? First, we need to know what all data are there, how much data is outside. So how we are going to check it out? So once again, here the people process and technology comes into the picture. Like, do we know that as an individual, what all data, what all my personal data is outside? I'll give you an example. Everyone uses social media, right? We put a photo, we put a family photo. So that is also a part of, it's a signal that it's that would lead to a data breach. When I come to the organization's assessment, so they have got best of the tool technologies in place. Trust me out. Best of the companies like Cisco's of the world, or all the companies are there. But you see what's happening. If we compare last year to 2020 to 21, there is a rise of 648% of say cybersecurity or data privacy issue. So what is data breach? Data breach is that your data which should not be outside is outside. The problem with us is that we are not able to identify. How to identify? If I talk of organizations, so there are certain methods to check it out. But unfortunately, I won't blame India. In fact, globally, I'm saying no one wants to know. It's a very sad reality. No one wants to spend any amount to know that how much of my data is outside. It's as simple as that. Because enough technologies are there. Even if you are putting your photo at any religious place, so people are there who can remove the religious space and put it in, say, bar or somewhere else where it should not be there. Okay. So either first we have to put the effort, and the problem our human psychology is once again greed. We don't want to spend anything on the security. We want antivirus also to be free. So there is no free lunch like everyone knows about that. But since our mind has been so much bombarded with those freebies, so that's where the security breach starts. It's as simple as that.
I think this is a question that we want to take up in some time, Nishant. So basically, what are the causes? I think we kind of talked about this already, but I just want to kind of point out to a few people that in cases of causes of data breach, it can be a config issue, it can be a malware, it can be application vulnerabilities, it can be wrong passwords, physical attacks. But I think pointing out to important things here is, what would you kind of call a cause as malware? Do you think that is, if somebody kind of clicks on a link that came on an email, that automatically makes sure that a malware is downloaded in an organization and it kind of takes over? Or do you think that maybe more more input from our previous conversation where we had greed, we had lust kind of overpowers people process technology? How do you see a malware, or let's say an improper config, as a cause of breach?
Improper configuration is basically this would apply in the organizational environment. Okay. So what happens when we do any software development, there are two terms: overthought security design or security by design. So typically what happens globally, this has been observed that we don't think security from the inception. Okay, we make something out and just to meet the compliance, because you see, we are more all the organizations are more on the business centric one. So they will try to make something, they will try to sell it, and just to meet the compliance, they will do some sort of audit, maybe ISO 27K or BAPT and all, which are the dated stuff. Problem, what happens that now when we talk of software development, so we have a defined policy from say CI, CMM and those other agencies. But we don't follow. Why we don't follow? Because it's a person-centric one. In our opinion, it should be a standardized one, that whoever does any coding, the output should always convert to certain standards. That we call it as a RAD tool, or rapid automation development, or application development. And because you see, the moment we make it person dependent, say once a software architect is there, suppose tomorrow, today he designs something, tomorrow he leaves, the new person comes. So he will come with his own concept. And that is the main reason of this improper configuration, because we don't have any standard, we don't practice any standardized coding practice. Coming back to the malware. So malware is what? It's just a tool to trick you out. Okay. You said that how it's going to impact, whether by clicking and not clicking. Once again, this is a very different ball game. There are a concept of zero click, no click malwares. Okay, so even if you don't click, like something like Pegasus, in Pegasus there was no click itself. So directly like it used to get planted there. So basically what does malware does? It has got a program which tricks you out to do something and exploit your fear, greed and lust mentality. How do we identify it's a malware and all? So plain and simple. If something is unusual, which is not available in market, 100% you say that it's going to be a malware. Application vulnerabilities, once again, this is related to your improper configuration only. Because vulnerability, what we do nowadays, we just go and pick up something from, say, GitHub. But no one has known that if you have picked up from GitHub, whether that has been security, it has been validated from security perspective on. And that's the main reason of this application vulnerability. Whole world is facing this problem. When we go and suggest them and try to tell them that, boss, this should be like this, so they also say, sir, yes, we know, but we have got some priorities. Physical attacks, when we talk of physical attacks, so this is something typically like normal users or SMEs doesn't get impacted on that. This is more on a state-sponsored attack. Okay.
So physical attack can be like termed as the 007 movies, right? Bond, right?
Yeah. So basically, this is more kind of like, say, there is a concept called cyber physical security. Earlier, it used to be cyber security. Nowadays, IIT Kanpur is doing a very fantastic job. In fact, they have got the first cyber physical labs. So there, what happens? Apart from your information, which is restricted to your IT environment and OT environment, that is your operational technology environment, they are combining these IT and OT, and then they are trying to attack the physical infrastructure. How? Gate crashing. So nowadays, everyone is aware of IoT stuff. So IoT is what gate sensor, boom barriers and all. How to disable that thing, or say how to disable your say MRI system in healthcare. So that will fall under your physical attacks. That when the attack, typically this happens like a state-sponsored attack or say hacker-based area, like these are things for. So what they try to do is they will initiate the attack from all the fields, logically, physically, and on application wise itself. And this is more dangerous. We have seen couple of instances like it goes way back to a Stuxnet problem, wherein then in Iran this thing had happened. Unauthorized use, that is once again like how do we define it's unauthorized? So that should get covered under your process, because initially I said PPT, people, process and technology. So these all things would be a part of process. Yes, ISO 27K talks about that, but then there is no one to check it out, because we do the security assessment exercise only for the compliance perspective, that there should not be any NCs or non-conformities. And that is the biggest problem. How to recycle password? Once again, this is your, technically we call it as a password spraying. So in password spraying, what happens that all the persons, we have a tendency that, like as I said, that our mind is like cognitive miser. Repetitive thing there, we don't take interest. Single password 123 is for one application. When it will ask to change it will be 1234 or 124.
Right.
So the pattern gets very clear, and like there are tools are there, so I can identify very easily that what would be your next password. And you have got like 10, 12, 15 subscriptions. you will be using the same password. So even if your organization is secure, you are following organizations laid down guidelines for the password, but the same password if you have used, say, in Swiggy or like any other third party, and if I can pull up the password from that place, then I can attack your organization. That is the way the hacker work. They don't need to penetrate your offices.
They don't need to, right? So basically, once a password is out, it is out. What Google has also done is, once you kind of you start using Google passwords, they kind of point out also.
Using the recycled password. But then it's too late. It's too late. Nowadays, there is no concept of password. It's as simple as that. Because whatever password you will put, and that is the reason, what we suggest, there should not be a concept of single sign-on. The root cause problem, because you see, the whole world goes for the single sign-on because I don't want to use my mind. And this concept has come from that place itself. You need to have multiple passwords, but then you will say, yeah, how to remember those many passwords? Okay.
Right. I think I want to pose this question to everyone. And I think first of all, I want to ask everyone what people here feel in terms of how common are data breaches. Do you think they're very common? They're happening around? I think after this conversation, I still want to understand from you. Do you think they are common or do you think they're very, very rare? So we are touching 40, okay, infrequent, okay. So then we are gonna move on and have a discussion. So basically there is a stat around, right, that we kind of use that stat around us, and we also put it on our website because as a company, we also are supporting the decrement in data breaches, and that the organization that is working with us is less susceptible to data breach, right? And I think, sir, this is the same conversation we also have together, right? What is it, right, for a small, medium business, for a business? What are those quick fixes also, right, that we should kind of talk about in the next slides, right? But talking about statistics, right? So, and you kind of pointed out saying 648% increase from last year to this year, right? So can you give us some basics on statistics that you are seeing right now in the market?
So the challenge is that since last year, we had our own set of problems before COVID. After COVID, what happened? There is a new concept came up: work from home. So 98% of the security controls what were available inside the organization, that felt like a pack of cards. So now you see the problem is what you have got your own device, you are working from home. So the applied security control doesn't work in the home environment except VPN, which is itself is a very highly debated that the main source of the problem is the VPN itself. Because what happens that when we are using VPN, okay, I'll cover it later. But yes, the applied security control is not there, and that is the reason the attack got increased that much. Take example of US Colonial Pipeline. What happened? It brought down the complete United States of America on a halt, right? Simple, there was a problem that remote desktop, RDP. So what they did was very simple, that through, in earlier slide, what I explained, that credential spraying, through that they guessed that, okay, fine, this guy's password would be this, because from the same computer, he was using that same computer for the personal activities as well. So it was very easy for him, the attackers, to detect that. And then there was a vulnerability in the RDP. So when did he execute? At 4 o'clock in the morning. That is the time when the shift changes. So you are slightly a bit callous. So, yes, typically what happens, you will be surprised to know that how many malwares get released in the market on a, per day basis. So yeah, bit of the stats are there that every 12 seconds, one new malware gets released. Now imagine how you are going to protect yourself.
Right.
That's the answer to that. So
I think one thing that I've learned the hard way is every time I start getting into reading more about data breaches, I just kind of start getting more scared every day. And then I am like, I don't think clothes are on when we are in digital world.
right. Totally.
It kind of every time it kind of ends up with the same thing. So I think probably, as you have said, right, we kind of segregate information that is important, right, and that is not important. And information that is important, and I try myself to segregate it, right, and try to keep it in maybe more secure, more vaults solve that problem. But I still don't think that, it is enough for sure for somebody to kind of solve. But I have another question for you, because we really want to now know the solution, right? We all have been talking about the problem, and people have been understanding here as to what the real problem is, right? Or how deep are we into this, right? But now my question is, why are we failing to do this? And putting into three parts. Yeah, over to you, Sir.
So it's very simple. Like as I explained earlier, the standards what we are following, that is dated. Okay. So currently, if I say procedural controls or technical controls, do you put in your organization to safeguard your data? The answer would be that we do VAPT. We follow, say, NIST framework, or say we follow ISO 27K. Is there any other methods? Probably answer would be no. Like typically, I don't get to hear anything apart from these three components. But try to understand, ISO 27K was formed in 2005. At that point of time, we were using 2G phones. Today, we are using 4Gs, and now everyone is going to put on a 5G network environment. So you see, technologically, that much we have advanced. But the security controls still, it's lying at that place. If I ask, have you ever tried to check whether, like in case of any cyber attack or say ransomware attack? Why I am saying ransomware attack? Because nowadays that is the biggest problem. Data privacy, data security, everything, it boils down to the ransomware attack. Ransomware operators, they take your data, okay? And once you have lost your data, then once again, then everything like falls. So that's why I'm saying I'm putting a stress in ransomware. What happens? Organization says that, we have followed all the laid down guidelines. But the hackers are always 6 steps ahead than the current practices available in the market. So by the time you fine tune it, there would be something else. There is some new concept. You get your network attacked in a real-time environment and see that how much you are able to defend. So the answer would be there that people will say, no, we do the VAPT. VAPT, something like everyone is aware of. All the attackers, they don't even touch the controls which are checked during the VAPT or OWASP 10 standards. So if they don't even look into that, so what we are trying to put? So there is a concept called red teaming. Red teaming is something like that. You do a controlled attack in your infrastructure and see in a real-time environment whether you are able to defend it or not. And that is the real test. I'm glad that with our efforts, at least in India, we had recommended this thing way back in 2015. So RBI had accepted this particular recommendation of ours. So at least for BFSI segment, they included a line that all the BFSI organizations should have a red team. But then that's what, it took a lot of effort, but how much it got circulated, I don't know. And that is the reason every day the big organizations are getting this. People are not even concentrating on it. Yeah, right.
I think, sir, probably one more thing that has happened is, being very honest, we as a company have also been doing a lot of VAPTs, right? But we also are getting requests for red teaming. So it is like people have started, that question has started. So I think we are taking a transition as an industry, as everyone. I think a lot of things also kind of come on the shoulders of the security professionals, because unfortunately what I have seen in the market is people are just giving to the client what they need, but not telling them the truth of, and same thing happens in privacy as well. So what they're asking, the people are doing, but telling what is actually needed, right? Or doing that gap analysis. I think that is a responsibility of all of us. And that is not happening. I think people are not telling the truth. And a lot of people are making money, so they've stopped. Everything has become a money making mode. But I want to move on to the next slide also. And I want to ask you controls from you, right? To people who are here in the session, they can take something back. What is it that they can take back, right? A few examples on physical security controls, cyber security controls, and cloud security controls. And how do we increase our trust score altogether in security?
So basically, you see, in physical control, well, I don't know how many people are here in OT environment and all. So basically, that would be more on that applicable. That would be applicable more on the OT environment and all. Well, I would like to address more on the logical part, because you see, ultimately that will get related to your physical security control. Okay, cyber security controls and cloud security controls. So let me bust a myth. The biggest problem currently what we are facing and why these problems are happening because of the cloud. 98% of the cloud infrastructures are breached. You name any cloud infrastructure service provider, I'll give you the example. Because in cloud, you have got zero security, zero privacy, and zero confidentiality. We typically talk on CIA. So there you get a zero. It's as simple as that. Why? Because if you read the agreement when you are signing up with any cloud service provider, so they say that they don't take any responsibility. It's a user's control. So once again, like if I know that much of the control, then why would I go to the cloud? So that is the main problem. In cybersecurity control, something what a normal user can take it back. So I'll give you a couple of examples, which maybe you people can make a note of that. I think that would assist you. This I've been practicing it very religiously for last 6-7 years. Okay. So the very first point is that there should be a minimal use of free digital resources. Whenever there is a free, there is a problem. Avoid use of Google, Bing, Yahoo search engines. Free email services, Gmail, Yahoo Mail, Rediff Mail. Password remember option in browsers, desktop or mobile. And single sign-up SSO practice. These all things must be avoided. It's as simple. There should not be any single email ID, there should not be a particular email ID where you are using in each and every application's web or application forms. In income tax or Swiggy, everyone people uses Gmail only, and that is the biggest problem. We need to come out of that. Whenever we are doing any confidential transaction or say data privacy related transaction, maybe or say income tax filing, banking transaction, always ensure that it should be a paid email ID, not the free email ID. Stock trading, okay. Mobile phones. Whenever you are trying to use any applications, it should try to use the paid version of that. I'll say why I'm saying this. You always assign the access on a need to know basis and disable location visited history. When you are using a paid version of applications, you have got your fundamental right to sue the company the way in Europe it happens, or say in US. In US not, but at least in Europe it happens. But if it's not, if you are not using any paid version, then you don't have you can't even put any claim. Social media. Whenever we are using any social media, avoid tagging, adding or tagging family members, colleagues, work area photos, public check-ins. Biggest problem is the public check-ins and Instagram. What to do? Like suppose I have said that you don't use these other things, then the next question should come. Then, boss, you have said everything no. Then what do we do? Yes, there are few options are there. Like instead of free email services, if at all if you need to use a free email services, try something like which is more privacy related, say something like Proton Mail and other stuffs. There you have certain privacy, it's that for sure. Browser, that's a very interesting thing. How many of us know, like rather let me put a question that how many of us use Chrome? If we say Chrome, then means you are done. Trust me. You can make a note of URL, I'm just reading it out, privacytest.org. So there you can literally see that which browser is taking how much of the things from your desktop or say mobile phones, handheld devices. Be it Android browser, be it iOS browser. So you can see it. If you spend some time over there, then you will literally start hating those things, but you have been using till now. When it's a browser, I would recommend try to use something called Brave is there, or maybe Vivaldi, or there are a couple of options are there. You can do a simple Google search, you will come to know about it. When you need to do some searching, always go for something like DuckDuckGo and all. So these are the privacy-centric applications are there, as Akash rightly pointed out a few minutes back, that people have started waking up. Okay, and people are trying to go for those options which literally respects and protects your privacy. If you start following these all things, well, it can't be done in a day, I am aware, but then yes, it's all about practice. If you are concerned about your data or data privacy or self-privacy rather, I would say self-privacy, because your data represents yourself.
Right, sir. I think, sir, we are in last 10 minutes of the session. So I actually want to open this session for Q&A, right, and also take questions of everyone who has been pointing out, which we have been missing out as well. And one of the questions that just came through is, cloud doesn't mean that all IaaS, PaaS, SaaS solutions are publicly exposed. I think somebody has posted this point. I think they kind of want to kind of contradict the point that you put through, I guess.
Yes, right.
So,
No. It's a very pertinent. I must respect this question. What point I wanted to make that cloud, yes, it provides the convenience. We need to trade between convenience and privacy. And if you see, as I said earlier, everything is zero enabled. You have to do the customization. Okay, and they don't take any responsibility. They will take the responsibility, but then for that they would be charging separate. We put it in a very simple way. What happens? Services part is always very expensive. Okay. Yes, they may be having best of the say firewall administrator or say application administrator. I am not disputing that. But then can we afford that thing? Cloud was not meant for that, right? So when they are saying that, for this you need to pay extra this much, for this you need to pay extra, then, like the beauty of cloud goes off. And once again, I am repeating, the 98% of the application which is running on cloud, that has been breached. I can say it on record. I won't take any particular cloud service provider's name, but the biggest cloud service provider, they are not able to protect their own infrastructure. Forget about customers. I can give quite a few examples.
So I think one more point the same person has put through is, please go through AWS, Azure, Google's security arrangement. CSA is standardizing the things.
They are standardizing. So now they are working on it. But what about till now? Answer is no. It's as simple as that. You take any example, Kaseya, and say a number of examples are there. I can put it. Okay. Be it Azure.
I think one more question, I think you already answered it. What is the alternative to Gmail? Let's say somebody wants to go for a more privacy friendly email option. So what is that option?
You can try for Proton Mail.
Proton Mail, okay. Okay, so I think this is a great question. So the question says, I work on quantum cryptography and I would like to know your take on changing the quality of random numbers that affect security. I am talking about hash functions, quality of random numbers affecting security, sir. That is the question.
Well, the question is very interesting. In quantum, I don't feel myself confident enough to talk about that. My team is there, but yes, we can take it offline. I can share my views.
I think Nishant has one of the best questions of the day. It says, how to train data champions for data breaches, right? How do we train internal employees, right? We have talked about all the problems, but if let's say we want to increase and we want to get less breached, right? Then how do we train people inside a company?
When I say that there has to be a awareness program, it's not that effective. So one needs to dirty their hand. Okay, always put a question, why? As far as the training part is concerned, there are curated trainings also. Like I gave an example. When there is a data breach, or like currently what we follow, it's a VAPT. So we need to think something beyond that. So we need to see that what all controls are there, which are in place, and what all extra has to be done. So maybe like there are quite a few agencies are there nowadays. They are trying to concentrate on say red teaming or blue teaming concept, wherein you do a live exercise. So that to answer this thing, how to train the data champions, so they need to dirty their hand in a simulated environment. That if required, we can give the references, or like in fact, we also conduct the courses for classified agencies, wherein like we train them that how to identify, how to address or mitigate it or neutralize it.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to definitely drop in link so that people can reach out to you. I can see that people have interesting questions, very in-depth questions, which I'm really happy about, because as people can ask that question here, that kind of makes a lot of sense. So any applications, frameworks, technology to have data privacy by design? I think I will take that then.
Before like you continue, I would just like to add the question to someone who had put a question regarding quantum cryptography. Okay, so let me tell you very clearly, this is still in the R&D phase. Like quantum technology is not available for everyone. Okay, so whatever we are doing, and there is no use cases in the commercial operations of any, say, organizations. Forget about those R&D organizations like Raytheon or Lockheed Martin or Boeing or say IBM. Okay, so this is still an evolving stage, and lots of scientists are working on to address this thing. Okay, so this is more towards the academically inclined questions, which I am also trying to learn.
One more very important question, and as you have pointed out to cloud infrastructure, right? People are getting really nervous here, and how to ensure data privacy safeguard while using services of a CSP, a cloud service provider, while they may engage with us via a contract and they may agree to adhere to our controls on privacy, but how do we get assured technically after signing that contract that they are following this contract?
This is more on a contractual side, wherein the security, like how do we follow? So the best way to check it, go for every 6 months red team. What is the red teaming? Say you have agreed certain things that the CSP would be providing. Okay, this is fine. And the infrastructure, let's understand that it's our infrastructure which we have hosted it over there. So I have got full right to test my infrastructure. Go for the red team. You engage any hacker or say white hacker, I should not say hacker, like red teamers. And they will do the control attack, and they will give you the evidence that, okay, fine, these all are the gray areas, these all are the black areas, these all are the green areas. So you try to get it mapped. It's as simple as that. But then the red teaming is the answer.
So the answer is red teaming. And I think, guys, for red teaming, for forensics, for data breaches, tomorrow something happens, I know one of the best people to talk to is always Mr. Shamsher, right, who's here on call, and we called him specially for this because of his technical expertise. And now I would like to end this session as well because we are hitting the time. And I'm really sorry to a few people whom we have not been able to answer, and they have posted a question for us. But we will take all these questions, right, one by one. You have my LinkedIn, you have Shamsher sir's LinkedIn on the chat, and you also have a lot of data in terms of our next session, our next webinar, some resources that we have. If you want to download the slide that we were just presenting, right, all the links are here, right? Just click on it and get it sorted, right? And we will see you again, right? And special thanks to Mr. Shamsher for joining us, for helping us in clarifying so many doubts and kind of pointing out to the wrongs in the industry and how do we improve upon, how do we solve that problem, right? And believe me, I have learned a lot today as well.
Thank you very much, Akash. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. My apologies if I had not been able to answer anyone's questions to their satisfaction. But then, yes, as I said in the beginning, even I also keep on learning. So, well, I'll try to improve myself for the questions which I have not been able to answer to their satisfaction. But once again, it was indeed a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, guys. And thank you, sir, for joining the session. And have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.